Hello, dear students. Welcome again to another session of our history class. And today, this is our third session on changing cultural traditions. And we are going to study the impact of printing. Now, one of the greatest revolutions of the 16th century was printing. And written word traveled to other countries because of this printing. And for printing technology, firearms, compass, and the abacus, Europeans were indebted to the Chinese and to the Mongol rulers. Now, before the printing press was developed, people used to have handwritten copies, which was, of course, very limited. Not everybody could afford it. So, when Gutenberg started the first printing press, the first book that was printed was the Holy Bible, and 150 copies were printed. And this was almost the same time that a monk would take to write one copy of the Bible. In that time, 150 copies of the Bible were printed, and that's how more and more people got to read the Bible. By 1500, many classical texts, nearly all in Latin, had been printed in Italy. As printed books became available, students now could buy them. Now, they didn't have to depend solely on the lecture notes. They could easily buy these printed books which were available in the market. Ideas, opinion, and information moved more widely and more rapidly than ever before. So, it traveled far and wide, this written material, and with that, the ideas of the people also traveled, and there was a lot of exchange of ideas as well. It was possible to buy personal copies of books. So one didn't really have to borrow or take it only from the library. People could buy their own copy, and this developed the reading habit among people. The chief reason that the humanist culture of Italy spread more rapidly across the Alps from the end of the 15th century is that printed books were circulating. The control of religion over human life was gradually being lost. Italians attracted to material wealth, power, and glory, but they were not irreligious. Now, because more and more material power and wealth was available, people started enjoying it, but that doesn't mean that they were irreligious. They still had their faith in God. Francisco Barbaro wrote a pamphlet defending the acquisition of wealth as a virtue. So, wealth was also looked at as a blessing from God. Not everybody could get that. So Lorenzo Valla wrote on pleasure. He believed that the study of history leads man to strive for a life of perfection. He criticized the Christian injunction against pleasure. So he said there's nothing wrong in pleasure provided that it is acquired through justified and honorable means. The growing concern about good manners, and it was important for people to learn to speak politely, to dress in a correct manner, and learn other skills of good culture. Now, this is a very important book, The Prince by Machiavelli. Niccolo Machiavelli is the author of this book, which was printed in 1513. And he wrote about human nature in the 15th chapter. Machiavelli believed that all men are bad and ever ready to display their vicious nature, partly because of the fact that human desires are insatiable. So basically, he's wanting to say that all of human desires cannot be satisfied. And sometimes, because of these human desires, human beings may enter into wrong acts. The most powerful motive Machiavelli saw as the incentive for every human being is self interest. That means for their personal good. He has often been called the father of modern political philosophy and political science. So he's often compared, his book is often compared with Chanakya's Arthashastra. And of course, if you can see, human desires are insatiable. We can somewhere relate it with the Buddha's Four Noble Truth. The desire is the cause of human suffering, and if we want to get rid of these sufferings, we have to control our desires. So, somewhere the thoughts are similar. So, Machiavelli's best known book, The Principe, it contains several maxims concerning politics. Instead of the more traditional target audience of a hereditary prince, it concentrates on the possibility of a new prince. So actually, the king would, the crown of the king would go to his son as a hereditary kingship. But he talks of an opportunity of a new prince also to come, who may not be actually a hereditary prince. So, this prince must carefully balance the interests of a variety of institutions to which the people are accustomed. Machiavelli endorsed immoral behavior, such as the use of deception and the murder of enemies, as he thought that made a leader effective and thus more viable to survive in politics. And that's why maybe sometimes we say everything is fair in war and politics. He also notably encouraged politicians to engage in evil when it would be necessary for political expediency. So they said that if the political leader wants something to get something done, maybe sometimes he may have to indulge into acts which may not be totally correct. The book gained notoriety due to claims that it teaches evil recommendations to tyrants to help them maintain their power. The new ideal of individuality and citizenship did not include women, unfortunately, because the public role of women at that time was very limited. They were looked upon as keepers of the household. Men from aristocratic families dominated the public life. They were the decision makers in their families. They educated their sons to take place in family business or in public life. Remember, when we were talking about schools were mostly for boys, or sending younger sons to church. Dowries were invested in family, though dowries were actually the property of the female. They brought it from their homes, but then it was to be invested into the family business. And women had no say as to how their husbands would run their business. So many of the women may have some business acumen, but they did not really have the right to interfere in the businesses. Marriages were interested marriages were intended to strengthen business alliances, so they were actually a business arrangement. If an adequate dowry could not be arranged, daughters were sent to convents to live the life of a nun. Now we can see in sharp contrast the position of women in families of merchants was much better than those in the nobility. Shopkeepers were assisted by wives in running shops. So many a times one would see that in a shop, both the husband and wife maybe together would be running the shop, or maybe by taking turns. The wives of merchants and bankers looked after business when they were away on work. So many a times these merchants had to go to far off places to buy their goods. So at that time, the women would take on the business. The early death of a merchant compelled his widow to perform larger public role than in aristocratic families. Now this is Cassandra Fedele. She is a renowned woman scholar in Venetia, Italy, and she was proficient in Greek and Latin. She has given a very important information. She says every woman ought to seek and embrace the study of letters, even though it promises and offers no reward for women and no dignity. So she says basically that even when a woman is educated and learn, people don't really recognize or give any reward or dignity. But despite all that, it's very important to learn and understand things. She questioned the idea that women were incapable of achieving the qualities of a humanist scholar. So she was, because of her immense knowledge, she was invited to give orations at the University of Padua, one of the very famous universities of Italy. She criticized the Republic for creating a limited definition of freedom that favored the desires of men over those of women. Now, this is another very important woman, Isabella d'Este. She was the Marquisa of Mantua, wife of a noble in Mantua, and she ruled the state of Mantua while her husband was absent. Now, he was a warrior, so he went out on wars. So, she managed the state when he was absent. The court of the small state of Mantua was famed for its intellectual brilliance because she herself was a very brilliant and knowledgeable woman. Now, what we gather from all this was that women's writings revealed their conviction that they should have economic power, and this is what the message of all these learned women have conveyed. They should have property and education to achieve an identity in a world dominated by men. And probably this message traveled slowly and slowly to different parts of the world. And of course, it took time for this change to happen. But yes, women started acquiring education and creating a space for themselves. So much for now. Thank you and have a nice day.